Keeping in touch with our touch, one of the things that I would encourage golfers to create a little bit of space at home to work on the putting. Statistically, we know this, right? At minimum, 40% or more of our strokes are had on the green. Not enough time is spent on the green in particular. And the great news is that you can work on putting because you can work on that motion very efficiently at home. So if it's snow outside, you can work on it. And a lot of my players will tell me in doing that, being intentional about that during the off season or the winter months, they come onto the greens once spring arrives as a better player, shooting better scores because they've been spending that time doing those little things to work on that touch, right? As we say, not losing touch with the touch.
Hi, this is Sky Thompson from Tualatin, British Columbia, and I play Tualatin Springs Golf Course. This is Golf Smarter number 933.
Keeping in touch with touch during your off season, featuring Dr. Greta Anderson.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome back to the Golf Smarter podcast, Dr. Greta.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Good to be here.
And it's great to see you again.
Thank you.
I'm very excited about being able to have this conversation. So let's talk about something. We don't,
Okay.
in our setup, we're like, what do you want to talk about? It's like, let's talk about golf. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Anything golf. We can do it.
Love it.
Great. So let's talk about winter. How to
Okay.
get through winter. I mean, you and I both live in climates that allow us to play mostly 12 months a year.
Mm-hmm.
But I've taken the winter off due
Yeah.
to physical limitations.
Yep.
And most of North America has to take most of the winter off
Sure.
because of the weather. And
Sure.
I'm feeling so compassionate to those folks because I couldn't imagine taking 4 or 5 months off of the game and then picking it up where I left off.
Well, that really doesn't happen, right? None of us take 4 or 5 months off and pick up where we left off. I mean, even when we listen to, the world's elite players, if they take a month or so off, what do they come back when we're watching a tournament on TV or whatever the case may be? We hear them in an interview. What's the first thing they say? I'm rusty.
Yeah.
It's just not the way, human performance works. We don't just come back. So, we kind of all have that in common. I guess that's the good news about being off. We're all off.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit of a difference there.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, okay. But
Yeah.
what is it that gets rusty? I mean, we know in our head what our swing is supposed to feel like, and stop tweaking and stop doing these things. But just if, with our eyes closed, we just feel the swing. We know what it's supposed to feel like.
Mhm. Mhm.
What elements of the game, because there are multiple,
Sure.
are
Well-
the things that really jump out of being rusty?
Sure. For some of us, it's those very things. It's the movement, the motion. For many golfers, golf is a big part of their physical activity. And so if they're not getting out onto the course, they're not moving that way. So for them, those reps in terms of moving, rotation, swinging, whatever the case may be, that's what's been missing for 4 or 5 months if they're off. But for all of us, if we're not playing between the ears, the discipline of making those shots over and over, that goes away, right? 4 or 5 months is a long time, even if you're off for a shorter period of time, like here, in the southern, southeastern, section of the states where, it's really about 3 months where it's just really kind of, and you're more inclined to not play. Even with that, you're going to be, I will use the word, a little bit sloppy from a mental standpoint. You maybe, for example, you might hit a great tee shot, but we all know it's that second shot that's really important, right? But you've hit the tee shot and now you're kind of being lazy over the ball and boom, a poor second shot. But 3 months into the season, you're not going to behave that way.
Right. So, the mental game, that is just repetitions and stuff. And I guess so the swing is too.
Yeah.
But, so many people talk about touch, whether it's your short game or your putting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That is something that we could kind of practice during
Yes.
that off season
Yes.
to keep
Yeah.
that not fine tuned, but not get fat on it.
You can keep in touch with touch. And so as a coach, I will say this. I always tell people this is the one thing, that touch that you talking about, that feel, it doesn't have to be the most fancy of a setup, right? But you can work on that consistently at home. A very basic setup. You know, obviously, if you have a putter and a few golf balls, all you need is a strip of land, a strip of space. If you have a hallway, which live somewhere, you probably have a hallway or corridor, a corner of a room or an office to work on that stroke, the timing, right? That 2-to-1 ratio, you can consistently work on that. You don't even have to have a ball to be striking a ball to do that. I mean, there's technology, tons of the technology allows for that. For example, with blast motion, that's one of the things. You can literally work on your swing with air swings and get quantifiable data to consistently work on your swing indoor. So they're the way to do things. And that is one of them.
What is blast motion?
Blast motion, great technology that allows you a couple of things. So it's a simple, almost like a little coin. It goes right onto the top of the club. Similar technology to Arcos. A lot of people have heard of Arcos.
Sure.
Basically the same technology. Very simple and user friendly. Sits right on top of there, and it works with the gyroscope and other, fancy technology, simple but fancy technology to manage tempo and create awareness for you using a very simple system that shows up on your phone: red, yellow, green, right? Where's your swing in order? It it establishes a baseline. You give it data. It's great, simple setup. And many coaches like myself use that with their select clients who choose to use it, to then they're able to transmit that data to me. I give them homework assignments, all of those types of things. So back to your question, some rust is going to happen because of weather and that type of thing. But on the putting and that type of thing, we can work toward not having that with some simple.
Is blast motion a consumer product or is it a coach's product?
Absolutely. It's both, but it's definitely a consumer product. You can pick it up and buy it and purchase it in most retail outlets if they carry golf technology. And one of the things as a value add in a coaching relationship is, again, wherever you are, whether you're on the other side of the planet from your coach, you can that data can be transmitted to the coach, and we can work on things. So if I can go like, okay, we can see, Fred, I can see that backswing is off tempo. It's not so much about how it looks. It's the tempo. The data tell me the truth, right? Okay, this club is coming way too far back, which is affecting, time to impact, which is so on and so forth, and causing issues or working for you, whatever the case may be. But yep, it's totally available and very, very reasonably priced.
Oh, that's one of the things I love about not being a professional in golf, is learning about new things like that, going, I've never heard of that. I can't wait to see what that is. Let's get them on the show. Let's do a show. Yay.
Yeah. It's a great technology. Yeah. Super cool.
Awesome. Okay. I'm going to have to find them and see what we can do and talk about that. Wow. Okay.
I think they're California based.
Oh, even better. Even better. Now, you mentioned the 2-to-1 ratio.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Was that on putting or is that full swing? That was putting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So a lot of times people are a little bit too fast or too slow, right? It's all about tempo, right? And so everyone may look a little bit differently, but the putting motion is a very, less is more, right? Back and through. And so if we get a little bit too fast, we get a little bit too slow, it's going to affect the impact. But more importantly, or equally importantly, we want to create that roll, right? We want the club to come up and create that top spin, so we're rolling the ball, not hitting the ball. So it's all about tempo. And so we just want that to be correct and appropriate for your setup, for the club the putter that you've chosen to use, the loft of your putter, to create that roll, consistent roll, right? The consistent that we talked about, the consistency that we all strive for and desire when we go out onto the course and we want to, get the final part of the journey right into the hole.
Wow.
Yeah.
I recently found, that for shorter putts,
Mm-hmm.
this is working for me so far.
Yeah.
But for shorter putts, if I have a shorter backstroke on
Mm-hmm.
my putt
Mm-hmm.
and then follow through all the way,
Yes.
I seem to be a little more consistent on the 4 or 5 footers, and I'm like, I keep missing those left.
Yep.
I keep, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But with a short backstroke and then follow through with it,
Correct.
I seem to be making more.
Correct.
That's a good one. That works.
Yeah. And think about this. So it was because your backswing is shorter, you're probably being more consistent with the tempo.
Mm.
And so I would also guess that so if as the length shortens, so is your stance. I mean, you're not having a super wide stance when you're working to make a 3 or 4 foot. So really the tempo is consistent with your stance, right? Back and through.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a time out. We'll be back right after
Yep.
this with Dr. Greta Anderson in 60 seconds. One of the other things that happens for all of us during that winter time when we're not playing as much golf is we get kind of lazy, right? We're not doing anything to increase our flexibility, increase our mobility, increase our arm strength, chest strength. Because if you want more yards, sitting around watching football is not going to get it for you.
No, not at all.
Although it's fun.
It is fun. I love that.
It is for me right now.
It's a huge fun. I'm a huge football fan. However, you're right. We've got to incorporate some movement into some consistent movement into our daily lives if we want to create success for ourselves out there on the fairways, right? So I'm a huge fan of movement and mobility. It doesn't have to be this arduous, super intense, gym rat kind of thing, right? But we do have to move consistently and really work on that flexibility and that mobility. I am a huge fan of that. I work hard to maintain that for myself, and I really do encourage others. I even put it in a lot of my programs for my executive and custom programs. We partner with a mobility specialist for that because it's so important.
Yeah, but I can hear the 30 plus audience going, I'm good, man. I'm in great shape. I'm fine. And the 40 going, maybe I should think about that sometime. And then the audience 50s going, I think I should start doing some stretching. Yeah. And then there's those of us in our 60s who are going, no, I do this every day.
Yes.
I have to because
right.
I want to be able to maintain, some semblance of staying away from pain. Look at me talking. Yeah. But staying, being able to play a round of 18 holes and feel okay afterwards.
Right. I mean, that's part of the process of aging well, right? And in being able to enjoy many aspects of life to be, functionally fit, right? But also, in terms, if you're a golfer, that's part of being functionally fit. I need to be able to function and move and rotate and walk and all of those things to enjoy this great sport.
So what do you do?
So I do lots of little things. I love yoga. I always have. So I practice yoga. I'm a huge, as I mentioned, one of longtime partners that I refer tons of people to, but I do that because they've worked wonders for me and continue to be a great partner. We're here based in Atlanta, Georgia, of course. And so our good friends over at Atlanta Sports Recovery, unbelievable. And so I listen to them closely when they tell me what to do. I do it. But more importantly, it's about maintenance. It's about consistently working on mobility. It's not something that you can it's not a one and done. And that is what's really important for us. And understanding that it's just a lifelong thing. Just as you get up and, do all the other things in life, it has to become a part of my life, particularly for me as a successful hip replacement person,
Yay.
stretching is just an important part of life. I mean, it's non-negotiable. And
Right.
so taking care of myself, that and eating well and hydrating, that's a big one. I mean, I drink a ton of water. I think when people spend time with me, if they've never seen, they're shocked at how much water I drink. But it this makes a huge difference. I mean, I was always a good water drinker, but I don't really know when trigger was something triggered like me drinking more, the importance of drinking even more. And it's really a game changer. So those are the big ones. I just try to eat well, drink well, and do a lot of stretching and mobility work along with the other fun stuff in the gym. But really, as I've gotten older, I'm in my early 50s. Those are the biggies.
Yeah. Yeah. And then water on the golf course.
Got to have it.
Stay away from the sugary drinks. Stay away from alcohol. It's like I'm just an old guy, like, you're no fun. Yeah, I'm not. I want to play better golf.
Yeah.
That's fun for me.
A few years ago, we kind of ran, I say we, my team, we ran a little bit of a study there about hydration and all the different items on the market. And we ended up partnering with Golf Magazine and golf.com to kind of republish that and do some things, because it was really kind of interesting. And it's just so important to read the label and understand. So, for example, I'm not here brand bashing at all. So all the aids and that type of, nobody come sue me or anything like that. But a lot of times people have no clue at how much sugar and other stuff they're ingesting in the name of hydration. So, if you're at the turn and you pick up a bottle of, let's just say, one of these brands that ends with aid, right? Let's just say that. And if you're not careful and you're like, you're thirsty, you've been playing good golf, you've been working, and you've got this bottle that seems to be of reasonable size, like one serving. Well, really, that bottle might be 3 servings. So when you're reading all that stuff on the back and it's talking about how great this is and, how much this and that, along with how much sugar and other stuff is in there.
And how many hundreds of millions they've spent on advertising.
That part. Right? You have just taken down so much sugar. So by the 11th hole, when you go up here and then you crash, you're thinking like, I've been hydrating. Well, you took in a lot of sugar too, So understanding what you really need. You really need the hydration. You really need the minerals. You really don't need all that sugar. And you certainly don't need those dyes and all of those other additives. So, understanding that. So I'm a big fan of lots of the things that come in, the little pouches that you can just easily stick in your bag. I don't have to go in and drop $5 on a Gatorade or Powerade or whatever other aid there is, sugar-free in my water at my own time to get what I need to keep the brain sharp, because that hydration is a game changer. We've all been out there on the fairway, right? And you're playing along fine, and then you hit a shot, and you're like, what possessed me to do that? Not even that it was an errant shot. It was just a poor decision.
Right.
A lot of times it's what it is. Our mental capacity is adversely affected by dehydration and poor nutrition and that type of thing. So, it's interesting.
Well, you talked about when after 11th hole and then 12, 13, then all of a sudden the crash happens from that sugar.
Yeah.
That also is a factor that happens if you eat during your round, right? Like stopping at the turn and having a sandwich and chips and all that, that hurts me every single time. So I just kind of graze through the round. I'll just do a bag of nuts and just little bits all through the round. But I've noticed every single time that I've like, oh yeah, I'm really hungry. So I'm going to have, a tuna sandwich or something at the turn, or turkey sandwich. Although I eat turkey, but then I'll have 3 or 4 holes that I just cannot figure out what's going wrong.
Correct. The reality is that most things that are sold at the turn or in the clubhouse, they're not so great for you when you're some of it, period, right? But a lot of it during your round. It's just not that good for me. There's nothing great about, a hot dog for sure, right? As you mentioned, all sandwiches are not created equally. We do so much better when we're grazing. If you look at, even again, if you have a chance to, attend a professional event, for, everyone has not, but if you notice and you watch the tour players, they're snacking along, they're grazing, right? Might be a sandwich, might be a peanut butter sandwich, and lots of fruit, lots of nut. They're just grazing, as you said you do, Fred. They're just grazing along, versus they're not waiting until they get to 11 and then scarfing down,
right,
a sandwich. It's keeping the brain sharp, keeping the levels, our blood levels, all of that good stuff, hydration, mineral count, all of that stuff at a good level, so that you can physically perform, but also make sound decisions, because golf is a game of decision making, right?
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, I have to make rational decisions despite my emotions, right? As I like to say when I'm working with my players out on the course, one of the things they'll say that I tend to say is like, you got to stay out of your feelings. These are numerical decisions based on the factors as they sit right now, right? So get out of your feelings, get off your ego. What are the facts telling us we need to do? And that's when we play our best golf.
Yep. I can hear it like, well, no, I have to finish the sandwich quickly, or the squirrels are going to come eat it, or the birds are going to steal my food. It's like, well, what does that tell you?
That is true. It will happen. I've had that happen more than a few times.
Oh, we've all had that happen. He's like, hey, there's a squirrel on the golf cart. Yeah. You got food open.
Yeah.
Oh, the blackbirds are coming. Here they are. The crows. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're smarter than we are.
Came after put a hole in the Tupperware.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. Big crow. That one, he was about as tall as my forearm. He was a big boy. Scared me. You can have it.
It's yours. I bought one extra just for you.
This guy came, I finished putting out and I got walking back to the cart. This guy had taken it from the little recess and was sitting on the seat in the cart and was just I was going like,
you walk up to it and it turns and looks at you like, can I help you?
Hey, I was just glad that I had a putter and I don't know, 5 or 6 iron or something. Cause I was just like,
they don't have
He was big. He was a big guy. Like, it's all you, buddy. That and the chips.
And you can have the chips too.
I didn't need
bag
those
of nuts,
anyway.
Fold them up, put them in your pocket.
Here's an apple.
Yeah, right. All right, we're going to take a 60-second lunch break. We'll be back right after this. I love what you said earlier about keep in touch with touch. It's probably going to be the name of this episode.
I love it.
Let's flesh it out some more. Let's talk more about keep in touch with touch for your off-season regimen.
Okay.
Go. What do we? Where are the places? What do we give us some helpful tips for the off season?
Sure. So keeping in touch with our touch, one of the things that I would encourage golfers to create a little bit of space at home to work on the putting. I mean, we know that statistically we know this, right? At minimum, 40% or more of our strokes are had on the green, right? And so I think many instructors would agree with this and coaches would agree with this. Not enough time is spent on the short game, on the green in particular. And the great news is that winter, spring, summer, fall, darkness, sunshine, you can work on putting because you can work on that motion very efficiently at home, right? So if it's snow outside, you can work on it. And oftentimes, a lot of my players will tell me in doing that, being intentional about that during the off season or the winter months, they come onto the greens once spring arrives as a better player, shooting better scores because they've been spending that time doing those little things to work on that touch, right? You say, as we say, like not losing touch with the touch. It's so important, experimenting with and getting comfortable with their putter, different types of grips, because things changed, body changes. We talked about mature golfers. Things happen, life happens. As you say, live long enough, life happens. It's okay to experiment, to explore, and the off season is a great time to do that.
Yep. And what do you, or do you even recommend to your students a grip for putting? Or is it just what's ever most comfortable with you? Let's just work on the stroke.
So one of the things that I do love about putting is, and I often, when I start with beginners, particularly in my classes, we start on the putting green. I'd like to say, like in life,
Absolutely.
a lot of times you begin with the end in mind, right? We working back. So if you understand the power of putting, it's empowering for many golfers, right? So, okay, I know that I can perform here pretty well, pretty quickly. And so then they can build upon that. So with that, as I like to say, this is the one place where we're not going to be as uptight about your grip. We have a couple of rules that we can't violate. We need the putter to be positioned squarely, right? We don't want it open. We don't want it closed. As long as you can hold it in a manner where the putter face will be square, if it's comfortable for you, we can begin there. But most of the time, we start with the good old-fashioned traditional grip. But very early on, I will introduce options to them so that they can see what's comfortable to them, or at least have some options so as they're out practicing and playing, they can go like, oh, this is a little bit different. Because again, we're all built a little bit differently. Our equipment's a little bit different. And, as circumstances change and they explore, they're watching more golf on TV and in person, they're seeing different things. So I like to expose them to it because I'm not wed to any grip. I want what works best for the golfer to work well for them. And one of the things that I typically will show them, which most of my clients have found to be an aha moment, is that I'm a huge fan of, the reverse grip. So I will help you show
left
you,
hand low for
left
right.
hand low, right hand low, whatever the case may be for you, very quickly. But also because from an instructional standpoint, it shows you how much you may or may not have your wrists involved in the putting stroke. So they go like, hold it, I can't flip. I go like, exactly, you can't flip that thing around. So all that to say, I'm start one place, but I'm very open to allowing people to explore it. And it's all about what works for them and their body, because everyone's just a little bit different. But we need the fundamentals, we need the principles to be consistent. I need the putter to remain square so that when we come through, we're rolling on a nice line.
And how, I'm going to cut that part out. And what about the, I'm going to cut this part out too. I'll get this question out, I promise.
Mm-hmm.
When you say get the wrist involved, okay, I've noticed, I have some friends who take a beautiful practice stroke when they're getting ready to make their putt, and then they come up and make the putt, and all of a sudden it's a different looking stroke.
Sure.
And then the putter face is not necessarily where it was when they were taking the practice strokes.
Yeah.
What issues should we be watching on our wrists as we're putting?
Well, when our wrists are involved, as I like to say, when we get wristy, the chances are high that the putter is not going to move. It's not going to stay online, right? The face is going to open or close, which is essentially going to put the ball on a line that's inconsistent with the desired line, right? It's not going to be down the path as you want it. And so I like to keep things very simple. I often we have a plethora of technology and tools at our disposal during instruction, but I like to keep things very simple. So I will use good old-fashioned alignment sticks, right? $2 at the golf store, right? One here, one there, to help and illustrate that, to just make it clear for people. Like, our objective is very simple. We need this putter to move down this path so that the ball moves down this path. When we violate or come across these lane markings, just like in traffic, we're going to have some problems. We don't want that. Keeping it simple to help people understand the movement, the motion. But if I'm here coming out or in or out, I'm all over in the traffic. And so keeping it very simple like that, we know that, some motions are more back and through. Some people will have a bit of an opening and closing, but the reality is that the way humans are designed, it's not either or. And a lot of putting and putter marketing says you're going to be one or the other. It's not really the case. Every human is a little bit of both. So it's kind of whatever their stroke works out to be. And of course, there's going to be some refinement as everybody is built just a bit differently. So we can generalize, but then it's going to be a little bit tweaking for that individual. But it's a simple motion if we understand that we need the ball to be just a little bit forward so that we can get it on the upstroke to create the roll. That simplifies everything.
When you say a little bit forward, you mean in your stance?
Yeah. Right.
So where should the ball be sitting? If your feet are shoulder width apart, where should the ball be?
I do this for students. I help them understand if we start with a ball right in the middle, right at the if the ball's obviously on the ground, and it's at the tip of your nose, right? That would be in the middle of you. If the club comes back and through, an even, pendulum motion, right? Tick-tock. As the club as putter is descending down right at the middle, right? What's going to happen there is the putter is going to strike down on the ball. Well, in this instance, that's not our desired effect, right? Because I want to put top spin on the ball. With that being said, the ball would need to be forward of center, so that on the upstroke, I'm creating the roll, the top spin. So very simple. I keep it simple in the beginning, right? This is the nose. This is the center of the nose. If you are, I'm a left-handed golfer, right? Correct. So I need the ball forward. So for me, I just think about, hey, instead of being at the point of my nose, I need it in front of this right nostril. It's not a big movement. Just a little bit, just to help them understand that. And so that will vary, maybe if I'm a little bit uphill or downhill on that green, but understanding conceptually what I want the putter to ultimately do. I want upstroke, not bashing down and certainly not bashing the ground back here. And so helping people with that is where I start, and it usually works very well.
And there are putters that claim to get the ball rolling faster than others. Is that marketing hype, or do they really help that?
A lot of times, I won't say that it's marketing hype, but I don't teach from a brand perspective. I teach from a science perspective. And so we focus on what do we want the ball to do? How will this ball react if it is struck in a certain way? So I won't say it is not true, but I just teach by the science. And because, and staying brand agnostic in terms of instruction helps, because you don't know what equipment someone's going to come up with, what they're going to change into. You don't know.
No, you do not. What we do know is we're going to take a break here, and we'll be back in 60 seconds. Now let's talk about short game practice for the off season. Sure. Putting is the first step, but then there's always that talk about the touch, the short game from around the green, from 10 yards off the green, from 30 yards off the green. How do we work on that in the off season? What do you recommend?
Well, that's one of the things. So if we have the space, some of us do, you may have, space in the backyard. And again, you may have a space in the backyard, but your backyard might be full of snow. So that's not always a good thing. So again, if we want to talk about motion and movement, there are a lot of great teaching aids that you can use at home. I'm a big fan of my balance board to help people. It's a simple. I don't even remember how much it costs, but I have 2 or 3 of them around. Of course, I know I'm a golf teacher, so I've got all kind of wacky stuff like that. Yeah, but they're really good, because a lot of times what people, again, not practicing and playing for several months, what people lose is an awareness about where the body weight needs to be, what it needs to feel like in the feet. So I found that for myself, but more importantly, among many, many of my clients, is that if I keep them in touch, no pun intended there, with the feeling of where the body weight needs to be, positioning of the body, that goes a long way, right? Because again, I can work on those things in a room just like this, on the board, feeling it, weight in the feet. Because again, in the spring, when I'm helping do a lot of cleanup work and refresh work with my clients, oftentimes the weight's too far back, right? We're in our heels, all these things. When just a little bit of reminder work, we get back in position, which means we're in a better position to strike the ball, to create the tempo, to create the forward progress that we need versus chunking and thinning and all that good stuff.
One of the things that I love to talk about with you is because you have so much going on in your life. Mm-hmm. You do so many things other than just teaching golf.
Yep.
What's going on?
Oh, lots of cool stuff.
Share, please.
So, I've always been a fan of technology in golf and using it to really help broaden the exposure and the participation in golf. So really working hard. I've been really busy at that for this past year. So just really doubling down on using technology, one, to build golf community, but even more so to really expand my instructional academy footprint. And so that's been super cool. So really loving that because it's just so interesting. I love that I have, probably 25% now of my client base lives, literally on the other side of the earth from me. That to me is just so cool.
Yeah, being able to do online lessons.
Yes. And building those relationships. I mean, it's fun. Now it's interesting because, of course, some of these people live in places where it is hot like fire right now. So, it makes for a complete cycle. Whereas, I have clients here and they're like, oh, it's 12 degrees today. So I'm just going to do a little bit work here on my mat here in the basement, where someone else is like, well, I'm inside today because it's, 40 degrees Celsius, like it's on fire, so it's, so it's a great thing, but also working hard to, again, really, that's my passion, to really expand golf and the accessibility of not just instruction, but great instruction that encourages people of all types to really get into the game and enjoy it.
Awesome. So, it's interesting that you talk about the technology, and as we're speaking right now, the PGA merchandise show is going on and neither of us are there.
Yes.
Well,
I was there in spirit. I was actually there in spirit because I did a couple presentations that were on video.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Presentations on what?
Community and technology. Those exact topics that I was scheduled to participate in. Long story why I was not in Florida, but I'm there in participation and doing a lot of background work there with a couple of brands, in fact. Yeah.
So what kind of technology are you talking about? Are you talking about the stuff that makes coaching and teaching easier, or are you talking about stuff that consumers can, I'm sure you're talking about golf technology.
Golf technology, right. So from I was speaking from a perspective of speaking to my colleagues as teaching professionals, but these tools, the tools that I'm always a fan of, are the tools that actually make golf instruction easier, more effective, and fun for the consumer. Because at the end of the day, if it's not good for the consumer, it's not going to play out well for us as professionals. It's just not.
Right. And it reflects on you.
Yeah.
So give me some examples of what you're digging these days.
So number one that I'm digging, and I won't say any specific order, though I dig them all. I am on the Skillest platform, and I absolutely love Skillest. One, because it's a marketplace. So you get a chance to... Skillest, like skill, and then EST, like the most skill.
Okay.
Right? Skillest. Right. And on that platform, it's instructors, just like me, from all over. But I like it because it allows consumers, one from a shopping perspective, if you will, to learn about you and then to work with you. So you really have to... one of the things I enjoy about teaching remotely is that while you build relationships as an instructor, you have to know what you're talking about, right? Because in the beginning, that's what someone's coming to you about. It's not because, you had on a great, sweater as you sat on the range and they saw you. It's because you can add value to them, and the relationship develops once they know and see that you can add value and help them, and then you build a relationship. But I like that you get a chance from a teaching professional standpoint. It forces me, and not that I didn't want to do it, but to really keep my skills and to add some additional tools to my toolbox. So with that, I'm really I'm diving into Sports Box AI, which that's from an instructional standpoint. Many golfers may have heard of that, and it's super cool 2D and 3D technology to help golfers. So that's another of my favorites. In terms of community, I'm a big fan of uh, professionals like myself building community that allows our students and our clients to have a safe spaces to really get to know each other and build their golf community and match and create friendships and leagues and all that type of thing outside of the algorithms that are going to profit from their data. Okay. Which means, yes, you can have a Facebook group, but you're essentially, when you do that, your data, your client's data is being used by others. I'm not personally a fan of that. And many of my clients do not want that. And so I think as a professional, if I'm providing service, then it's important to provide a space where people don't feel compromised or uncomfortable with being there. So I'm big on those technologies. And so one of the brands that I've worked with and I'm a huge fan of called Coterie, and they've designed and continue to evolve their technology just for that. It's basically building out your own community space and using it as a professional however you see fit, whether that's instructional, community building. You want to have tips, you build it, it's branded, it's white labeled, it's great for a very affordable price point. And so I'm big on that. So those are kind of the things that I've really been honed in on, I'd say probably in the last 6 months. But I believe in technology. I believe, as I've said before, if we're really going to grow the game, if we're truly passionate about growing the game, then we're going to have to do some things very differently. And the use of technology is one of the ways that we're going to get to the democratization of golf. Everyone doesn't have the luxury or the access to get to a professional and stand in front of them. I mean, it's expensive to stand in front of people like me, just candidly, right, on a daily or weekly basis. Many people cannot do that, but that doesn't mean that they don't want to and don't deserve access to great instruction and golf service.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's so funny because 2023, probably the word of the year, if it wasn't announced, it should have been, was AI, right? Everyone's talking about AI and how they're going to lose their jobs, and it's going to take away so many jobs, and then people, whatever you do. Yeah. But not golf instruction and not golf.
Not golf instruction and not golf. But I will say this.
It still demands the interpersonal contact.
Absolutely. If you are, and I will say this, my whole take on AI, because in a previous, in another part of my life, I still do consulting and work in that regard that doesn't necessarily have to do with golf. So it's the same thing, but it's very similar in this regard. If you are not in a position or have not developed yourself to be in a position to add value to your respective genre, industry, however you like to term it, then you will become obsolete. Right? There are, as I like to say very simply, there is nothing about golf that you can't find on the internet. There's nothing about the swing you can't find, nothing about putting. That is not why people come to me. They come to me because they want the bypass, right? They want to get directly to accurate information and the application of it. They want to get there quicker than if they just tried to go around it. I mean, it happens all the time. Someone comes on your lesson tee, a new client. and they're talking, and they might spend the first 5 minutes talking. They've told you about 4 YouTube videos they watched, and the article they read about in Golf Digest, and the podcast they listened to on the way there. And they've got all this stuff jumbled up. And I'm fine with that as we have conversation. But what I invite them to consider is this. And the reason you've landed here is because you have either gotten a referral or, we in our conversation prior to this lesson, you understood that I can help you take all of those things you've learned, whether they're correct or maybe a little bit flawed for you, and put them into a package that's going to work effectively for you. That's value adding. So if you're not able to do that, you will kind of go by the wayside.
Yeah. So how do people get in touch with you? How do they find you online? So if they want to take lessons from the other side of the planet, they can work with you.
Sure. So you can find me at Dr. Greta Golf on most of the socials. If you're on LinkedIn, it's just Dr. Greta, no golf on there. And then, of course, my website, drgretagolf.com.
Awesome. So enjoy having these conversations with you, and I look forward to doing it more and more.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Well, one of the great benefits of introducing our latest Golf Smarter ambassadors is that we get to learn about new cities and golf courses all over the world. This week's episode was introduced by Sky Thompson. Sky is one of my all-time favorite names, by the way. And he's from Tsawwassen, British Columbia, where he plays at the Tsawwassen Springs Golf Course, which is a winter wonderland just south of Vancouver. Tsawwassen is spelled Tsawwassen. Thanks, Sky, for joining the team. Sky received a free link to Tony Manzoni's video of the Lost Fundamental. Now, if you're not familiar with Tony Manzoni's work as an incredible instructor, please keep your eye on Golf Smarter Mulligans when it returns in April, as we honor him by playing 10 consecutive episodes in a row that we did with Tony before he passed away in 2018. In the past few years, we've only played 9 episodes, but I recently found one that hasn't been repeated before, so you won't want to miss that. And to this day, I still get more email about the impact that Tony has on golfers' games than any other teacher we've ever featured. And I'm talking over 900 interviews that we've done here. If you'd like to learn more about Tony, go to golfsmarter.com/Tony. And don't try searching anywhere else, because you won't find anything on Tony anywhere on the web. He was in his 80s by the late 2000 teens and just wasn't savvy with the internet. So we kind of helped him out. But I want to invite you to become a Golf Smarter ambassador by recording an episode opening telling us who you are, where you live, and where you play. For your effort, you'll be given a choice of 3 great gifts to choose from. Like Sky, you can choose Tony Manzoni's video of the Lost Fundamental, or you may want to get a glove and glove storage compartment from redroostergolf.com, also from Canada. And our third and newest option is an 8-pack of Flight Path golf tees from flightpathgolf.com. Just for trying a free box of those out alone is worth writing to me. Just write directly to me, and I'll send you simple instructions on how to record an episode opening that takes less than a minute. Check out today's show notes to find links about each gift you have to choose from. If you have any questions for me, you have any comments about the show, maybe you have suggestions about somebody you want to hear more from, then write to me. Or join our list of Golf Smarter ambassadors who receive a free gift. Write to golfsmarterpodcast@gmail.com or click on the Hey Fred button when you visit golfsmarter.com.